Call this Tigard City Council meeting to order. City Recorder Krager, please call roll.
Councillor Singh.
Here.
Councillor Wolf.
Here.
Council President Hu.
Here.
Mayor Lube.
Here.
Youth Councillor Bogle and Councillor Shaw are absent.
Thank you. If everyone will join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, everyone. Does council or city teammates have any non-agenda items this evening?
We do not have any non-agenda items. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. The first item on our agenda is proclamations and recognition. And in honor of COP28, which is the Conference of Parties, I issued a proclamation which Tigard supports the local climate action summit at COP28. And please sit back and enjoy as I read it. Whereas the 28th Conference of Parties began November 30th, 2023 in Dubai, UAE, to bring together diplomats and leaders from around the world to assess progress in dealing with climate change, negotiate and strengthen climate action implementation, and make decisions on necessary measures to address climate-related challenges. And whereas the latest synthesis report from the first global stocktake revealed that the world is significantly deviating from the goals established 8 years ago under the historic Paris Climate Agreement. I should have done mouth exercises before this. And for the first time, there will be a local climate action summit to convene mayors, governors, businesses, non-governmental organizations, and other local actors who are increasingly seen as critical in helping national governments reach emission reduction targets while building resilient and future-proof economies. And whereas numerous cities are outpacing their national governments in reducing per capita emissions, highlighting the critical role of subnational governments in climate mitigation and adaptation efforts. And whereas 70% of the global population is expected to reside in cities by 2050, and with climate-driven natural disasters on the rise, it's imperative for the national and subnational governments to collaborate closely to expedite emission reductions so that local governments can meet the challenges of a warming planet. And whereas the City of Tigard has adopted goals and policies to address climate change, and started to reduce local emissions by eliminating minimum parking requirements, simplifying the permitting process for installing rooftop solar, introducing municipally owned e-bikes to the community, transitioning the city's fleet vehicles from fuel-based to electric power, installing municipal electric vehicle charging stations, reducing vehicle trips for water meter reading, demonstrating circular economy practices at the Tigard local library, Tigard Public Library, and planning a microgrid for the library for improved resilience and demonstration of the necessity of distributed energy resources. Now therefore be it resolved, I, Mayor Heidi Lube of the City of Tigard, Oregon, do hereby proclaim Tigard's ongoing commitment to climate action and declare our city's support for the local climate action summit at COP28. Further, I encourage all Oregon leaders, including my fellow mayors, to actively follow the proceedings at COP28 and work to secure the necessary funding, authority, and support for cities to be able to make clean and just transition that limits global heating to 1.5 degrees Celsius. So I hear often from community members, I think, who are in opposition of the climate work that we're doing. And the conversation becomes a lot of, well, what can we do, right? Like Tigard isn't responsible for all of this, we're not gonna do much. But I think it's incredibly imperative, especially with the proclamation, to talk about how when cities do their part, like the nation wins together, and that it's imperative that we make the changes on the local level that make that huge impact. So I just thought it was really important to read through that and to talk about Tigard's commitment to our climate policies. Would anybody like to make any comments or anything in regard to the proclamation?
Thank you.
All right. We are moving on to public comment. If you'd like to call in for public comment, please call in now to get into the queue. The phone number is 503 966-4101. And please log in if you'd like to comment by video as well. We will start with, there's no previous public comment from last week, so there was no follow-up. And there was one written public comment received yesterday by noon, and it was from Rebecca Goodhouse regarding the restricting of the sale of flavored vape products. And to summarize, fruit flavors are not the source of the problem with underage vaping. All vapes are flavored. The solution is to reduce the use of vape by underage youth by focusing on more retail underage sales, enforcing current laws on possession by a minor, creating packaging requirements, as done with cigarettes and cannabis, and providing more education on effects of vape and better access to addiction treatment. We do have one person signed up to come and speak in person, and I'd like to invite up Ken Barker. Just as a reminder, the public comment is a great time for you to come and talk to us about whatever is on your mind. It's not a dialogue, and so if you want to come up, you have 2 minutes. Yeah, come on up here. We just need you to turn on one of the microphones. There's a button at the front, and it turns green. Perfect. Welcome, Ken.
Great, thank you for having me, and wanted to thank you for this proclamation. That is dynamite. I want to address the council and the city on our climate emergency that's coming up. And I think we need to move faster, quicker forward. And I would like to do a couple things. I'd like to thank some of your city staff that I've worked with, Rick of your Park and Rec Department, and Kenny of your Community Development, in trying to move forward. But we definitely need to move quicker, and I'm hopeful that the city can help us with that. And I think anything the city can do to make things more affordable for a lot of folks, because we need to get heat pumps out there, we need to get better walking, and right now, if it's not affordable, we can say all of it is, but people won't act. So I'm hoping to work with the city and the staff and the residents to try to really promote this climate emergency. Also, I'd like to also emphasize that we have coming down the pipeline either today, tomorrow, the Cascadia earthquake fault that may be coming. And our energy setup is very poorly set up for that. We don't have any grids. If something goes out, we're in deep, deep trouble. I think the library that you've developed there with the microgrid is one step forward, but we need to take another 10 steps forward. So I look forward to working with the city council, city staff, and residents to keep moving forward. And thank you for letting me speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Network Administrator Wold, is there anybody on the phone or any video callers in the queue for testimony today?
Mayor, there are no callers in the queue and no callers in the video queue.
Okay, thank you so much. And we will move on to the City Manager report with Assistant City Manager Nyland.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My fun fact is I get to deliver the admin report. So I have updates from a few departments. So last month, 27 community members attended the November session of Coffee and Conversations. Participants came from a wide range of ages, backgrounds, and life experiences. The next session of Coffee and Conversations will be Thursday, December 8th. And you're probably asking, what is Coffee and Conversations? This is a program that the library hosts, and it gives community members a chance to get to know the library teammates and others and meet neighbors in the Tigard community while enjoying coffee and a light breakfast. They get to learn about the library and community resources in a casual, friendly environment, and everyone is welcome. From Public Works and Parks, last week on December 1st, we held a fun run. Fun and run, sometimes they go together and sometimes they don't. This first annual Festive Fleece Fun Run was a success as community members showed up in their most festive attire and walk the Heritage Trail. The event was in partnership with the Tigard Downtown Alliance and Hope Church. 60 people registered for the event, and all proceeds made from that race were donated to the Good Neighborhood Center. Planning on continuing this tradition at next year's tree lighting event. From Community Development, let's talk climate. We did. Last night, 22 Tigard residents gathered at a local restaurant to discuss how we can take action to support the council goal to address climate change. Attendees expressed that they appreciated the opportunity to have a discussion with others who were concerned, and they were inspired to work together to effect positive change. This was the beginning of an ongoing conversation with the community to inspire everyday climate actions, build community, and help others get engaged. Lastly, from City Management, something to look forward to. On Saturday, December 16th at 6 p.m., we're having the annual Holiday Lights Walk. We'll be starting in front of the Tigard High School auditorium, and at the end of the walk, we're going to encourage participants to stop by Primo Espresso for a cup of hot chocolate, marshmallows, and a peppermint stick. The Tigard Youth Advisory Council will be volunteering to keep cocoa flowing to all of our visitors. The route map and details are on the city's website under Tigard Walks. That is my report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Okay. Oh, yeah. Council President Hu.
Mayor, just want to follow up, since you mentioned last week, but I don't think you finished the Tiger Menorah lighting. It's December 11 at 5 p.m. at Universal Plaza. Just remind the public that. Thank you.
Thank you for that addition. Okay. We will move on to the legislative public hearing on climate-friendly and equitable communities compliance project, phase 2, and I will open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to testify by phone or video or in person, there was a sign-up sheet at the back, but you can raise your hand and let me know if you haven't gotten on it. And if you'd like to call in, please do so now, 503-966-4101. And I welcome Senior Planner Warren to give the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor Lube and councilors. My name is Skylar Warren. I'm a senior planner in the Department of Community Development, and perhaps on theme tonight, I'm here to talk to you about legislative text amendments to our Tigard Community Development Code to implement the climate-friendly and equitable communities rules. Next slide. So a little bit of background on this. I know you've heard this before, but I just want to recap where this is originating from. So these amendments are the result of some updated state transportation planning rules in OAR 660 Division 12. Those rule updates themselves are part of a collection of rules called the Climate Friendly and Equitable Communities Rules. They are the direct result of the governor's executive order that was issued in April of 2020. That order was for all state agencies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. At that time, both the Oregon Department of Transportation and the Department of Land Conservation and Development had a pre-existing project to address equity needs in transportation and land use planning, and so they brought those two together into one project. Those rules were adopted by the Land Conservation and Development Commission July 21st of 2022. And like any new rules, there were some technical fixes that were deemed as necessary and some clarifications in the language. And so LCDC, in response to community comments and comments from stakeholders, directed the department to go ahead and proceed with technical fix project that started in spring of 2023. I actually participated on the rulemaking advisory committee with DLCD on that project. It was very productive. I do feel like we were able to help shape the rules to better suit our needs and the needs of the state. And those technical fixes were adopted then on November 2nd of this year. Next slide. So there's not a lot to the transportation planning rule related to CFEC, but there's also a lot. In terms of what changes, most of it is related to transportation system planning, so long-range planning related to our transportation system. There are a subset of rules related to land use that are primarily focused on parking reform. And within those rules, there are essentially two phases of work that need to be done. You could do them both at the same time. but we broke them into the two phases based on the deadlines that DLCD had set. The first was to reform minimum parking requirements and parking management by January 1st of 2023, and the council did adopt a repeal of minimum parking requirements citywide in December of last year, meeting that deadline. So the second phase of reform is related to the way that parking lots are designed. And originally these reforms were due to be adopted by June 30th of this year, but owing to the pending changes in the rules with the technical fixes, DLCD did opt to allow cities to apply for extensions. So we did, and our application was accepted, and we were going to give an extension to January 1st of 2024. Next slide. So there's not a lot in these reforms, partially because the city of Tigard is largely in compliance with a lot of the provisions and the rules. But there's four major sort of topic areas that are involved here. The first is tree canopy requirements in parking lots. The second is pedestrian access and safety requirements. The third is electric vehicle charging requirements. And then lastly, maximum parking requirements. And I'll run through those in more detail. Next slide. So with tree canopy requirements, as I think you know, the Tigard Community Development Code already requires minimum tree canopy over parking lots of 30%. So the CFEC rules actually increase that tree canopy requirement to 40%. And this is one of the areas where our involvement in the Rulemaking Advisory Committee was actually to our city's benefit, because there were a lot of other rules related to tree canopy provision throughout parking lots that we thought would be better handled with just a simple percentage like the one that we have. And DLCD did take that recommendation and adopt it into the rules. So the way that this works is you actually have a choice if you're a developer who's coming in and is going to build off-street parking. You can provide that 40% tree canopy that is required by the rules, or you can provide the Tigard standard of 30% of tree canopy and then also provide minimum solar generation on site. If you provide the solar generation over the parking, then you're exempted from the tree canopy requirement, because obviously tree canopy and solar don't function well together. And a third alternative is that in lieu of installing that solar, you can actually pay into a clean energy fund that is either managed by the Department of Energy or by the City of Tigard, and we opted to actually maintain those funds locally rather than send them off to the DOE. So the climate connection with this piece is that parking lots create heat island impacts. Those exacerbate heat events, so they retain heat and radiate it back out, whereas trees reduce the heat island and act as a carbon sink. Also worth noting that solar generation offsets energy production needs that would be generated from fossil fuels, and so that is another tie to that solar generation alternative. Next slide. So pedestrian access requirements. This is one where, again, we were largely in compliance with the rules already, that parking lots must include street-like features that are pedestrian friendly. We did have to make a couple of tweaks that just called out specific destinations, and this is another one, again, where our involvement helped to make the rules more clear and objective for local application. The climate connection here is that developments should make it comfortable and safe for people who want to choose non-motorized travel options in order to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Next slide. So electric vehicle charger requirements. So these are requirements that residential and mixed-use development must provide electric vehicle charging capacity at a minimum number of parking spaces. So a little bit of background on this one. There was already a state bill that mandated that commercial developments provide 20% of EV charging capacity in their off-street parking spaces. This rule builds on that state law specifically for residential and mixed-use developments and increases that number to 40%. And to be clear, this is EV charging capacity, which does not mean the chargers itself or even the wiring. It just means that if you're building the parking lot, you have to include conduit that runs from the service area or the panel to where a charger could eventually be located. The climate connection on this one is that EVs, electric vehicles, can reduce greenhouse gas emissions that are generated from automobile travel. Next slide. So the last one is maximum parking requirements. In this one, developments are subject to maximum amounts of off-street parking. Again, this is one where we were largely already in compliance with the rules. Across the metro region, maximum parking requirements have applied since I think the late 90s. And those maximum parking requirements are dependent on a development's distance from transit. The closer you are to transit, the lower your maximum parking requirements or allowances are. So we didn't really have to do a lot of updates to those tables. I think there were only 3 types of uses that actually had to have their maximum parking lowered, and when it was lowered, it's something like 0.2 of a space per 1,000 square feet of development area. So the climate connection with this one is that the over-provision of parking encourages more driving over other mode choices, increasing greenhouse gas emissions. Next slide. So a summary of these code changes. Chapter 18410, which is our off-street parking and loading chapter, that's where the majority of these changes are contained, and that's where you'll find the tree canopy, EV charging, and maximum parking standards. And then we have some omnibus changes that are just scattered throughout the rest of the code. We did include a new measurement for parking lot area so that we could apply some of the standards in Chapter 18410. We included the pedestrian path standards within the development standards chapters for commercial development, industrial development, and residential development. And then there's just some general cleanup involved as well. Next slide. So our recommendation and to the Planning Commission and Planning Commission's recommendation to the Council was to adopt these amendments. And I have one more slide here related to some late-breaking changes that came in. So since the Planning Commission version, we did receive some feedback from the Department of Land Conservation and Development that they wanted to see a couple of tweaks to our code. One is a clarification about the way that the electric vehicle rule applies to mixed-use development, just clarifying that it's mixed-use development that involves residential. And then also adding a provision for developments over 65,000 square feet. The rules do say that if your development is providing parking area that is over 65,000 square feet, it can't exceed the square footage of the actual development itself. Next slide. So I think this is one of the smaller code amendment packages I've brought to council. So that's the totality of my presentation to you about these code changes, and I'll take any questions in advance of public comment.
Yeah. Councilor Wolf.
Just a comment, Senior Planner Warren, I just appreciate you following up with my questions, and just really for me being kind of new to this process, what is the flexibility that we have, what exists or what doesn't, and just moving forward really has been presented from the state in kind of a way that moves us forward in the same way. So that was just, I appreciate the response and the engagement and the feedback that you received. So.
Counselor Singh?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Skylar. Just want to, say that I'm really impressed how far this has come. I was actually on the climate-friendly and equitable communities rulemaking phase 1, so just really happy to see that you are on the second phase, and Tigard had representation there. So just want to thank you for that, and yeah, I'm in full support of this. And I think the only question I had was about the solar fund. You mentioned that City of Tigard will be collecting that revenue, and just curious to know like what kind of how we will be using those funds, or what the plan for that is.
So at this time, there's no specific earmark for those funds. They are required to be put into a separate fund. And I think one of the reasons that we haven't, explored that as much at this phase is because, one, the amounts are low, and we expect to not really probably take in funds except in extreme circumstances where development can't otherwise provide solar, because we do think it would be cheaper for most developments to just provide the solar on site, and it does provide the long-term benefits for their residents or tenants. So I think it's exceedingly unlikely that, especially in the near term, that we would see money flow into that fund. But in the event that we do get that, we certainly would come forward with some recommendations about how to deploy that. And I think, as you're aware, we have plenty of other solar-related projects around the city that we could certainly put those funds toward as well.
Council President Hu?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Skylar. Echoing Council Wolf and Council Singh's comment, thank you for answering all my questions. And I was on the Planning Commission when we recommend phase 1, so it's exciting to see phase 2 coming to the City Council. I do have a couple of specific questions. So you mentioned that the state rule raised our city tree canopy requirement to 40%, but the proposed ordinances for parking area less than 20,000 square feet is still saying 30%. Why is that only 30%?
So because the rules only for parking lots, and I probably didn't go into a lot of detail on this, they only apply if you're over a certain size.
Okay, over 20.
And so we're not under any obligation to apply the higher 40% canopy requirement to parking lots that are smaller than that limit. Certainly, if that's something that council is interested in pursuing, you could adopt the language with an amendment to increase that percentage. I think for smaller parking lots, it does become a little bit of a math problem to be able to accommodate drive aisles and tree canopy efficiently. But certainly that's within your prerogative. I don't know that as staff we would necessarily recommend it at this stage. I think we'd want to look more closely at it. But
well, you're the expert, so I defer to your opinion. Another question I have is, if I read the state rule correctly, and thank you for participating in the fix, by the way, the parking climate fee, or the in lieu fee, if you can pay that and not have to worry about tree or solar at all, right? Is that, if I read the state rule correctly?
So the fee gets you out of the solar requirement, which allows you to reduce from 40 to 30%. Putting that aside, Tigard still has a 30% tree canopy requirement for parking lots. There is no fee in lieu for the 30% tree canopy. So it's only if you won't be able to meet the 40% that you end up paying the fee in lieu if you can't install the solar. Does that make sense? So as a baseline, any development will provide 30% tree canopy above parking. Any development that provides off-street parking.
That's a
unless they get
city.
an
That's a city requirement. That's
citywide.
not this city.
Pre-existing
Oh, okay.
citywide requirement, 30%, regardless of the size of your parking area, unless you've gotten an adjustment. Once you go over that size limit of 20,000 square feet, now you're in a three-part decision. You can either increase the tree canopy to 40%, you can provide an offset of solar, or you can pay a fee in lieu to a fund to do the solar offset elsewhere, not on your site, at the city's discretion.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense now. Thank you. Okay, so just two other areas I want to quickly touch on. So thank you for explaining to me at least that the state doesn't really have an objective standard of what providing preferential parking space for carpool, vanpool vehicle are. And I understand that this probably won't be a problem for Tiger because we're probably not going to have, hopefully won't have that much parking offered to people who are that much employee. But if you ever have opportunity to work with the state again, I think it is something that preferably they will provide an objective standard, right? Because, you know, my preference for any law is that if you provide a law, if you provide a requirement, you should have an objective standard on how people can comply. Otherwise, it's meaningless. But I just want to make that comment. And lastly, about my own experience, you know, riding my new e-bike around town and the barrier that I face. And so you mentioned that staff will, you know, took that into advisory and make future recommendations. So when would you expect that will happen for future code amendment to accommodate, you know, make our facility more bike friendly, and can community members submit comments to provide suggestions?
So I don't want to commit, our community development leadership team would ultimately make the decision about which project that best fits into, and I don't want to provide any conjecture about which one that is. I don't know the answer to that yet. It could be that it would fit into Tigard Made, and it could be that it fits into the Chapter 910, 920, 930 updates. I think certainly we're aware that bike parking requirements, both the quantitative standards and the design standards for them, do need some updating because you know, even the quantitative standards can sometimes be a barrier to housing production, and we want to make sure that we're deploying, or we're requiring bicycle parking to be deployed that is serving the users and the most efficient and effective that it possibly can be. So I have passed on those recommendations to the team. We haven't had a code team meeting since then to discuss that, but we have one tomorrow, so I'll make sure to bring that to the top of the agenda.
Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate it because, you know, having, for example, you know, one of my complaints that having a bike rack on the wall is just not very practical for a heavy e-bike or cargo bike, right? How are you going to attach them when it's on the wall? So, so maybe we can just look into that from a bike user's perspective. So, thank you so much.
Thank you. We don't have anyone signed up for in-person public comment. If anybody would like to speak on the hearing, yeah, come on up, Sean. If you'll just turn on your microphone, and just because your name's not written down, if you'll just state your name for the record, and then you'll have 2 minutes.
All right, I'm Sean Martinez. I'm resident of Metzger, and my daughter Eliza goes to Metzger Elementary School. I wanted to echo Council President Hu's comments about e-bike storage. I ride a large cargo bike, the one that can have my daughter inside. It's very difficult to find a bike rack that would accommodate that size of a bike. The outdated wave racks that you see everywhere, you can only use the outer posts of a wave rack to attach a larger bicycle to, because it won't fit between the waves of a wave rack, and that's why we don't provide those anymore. Mostly we use staples now, and it's just a staple shape. I also want to comment on car storage and how inefficient cars are. They take up a lot of space. They're a net drain on society, and the amount of space that we have to provide a parking space at a home and at work and at the grocery store. Every car has to have multiple spaces throughout the city. So if we can reduce car trips and have fewer cars, we would require less land to be used, and we would have less heat island effect. So I just wanted to ask that you think about that. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Network Administrator Wold, is there any callers in the queue or anyone wishing to testify by video?
There are no callers in the queue, Mayor.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Warren, do you have any response to the testimony?
I will just reiterate that we are looking at bicycle parking standards, and will continue to do so. And I do anticipate that at some point in the near future, perhaps Metro does intend to take another look at their maximum parking standards. I don't know when that's slated to happen, but I believe that they are required to look at it by the CFEC rules, and so we'll certainly work to be involved in that conversation as well.
Thank you. I will close the public hearing, and now we have council consideration for the ordinance. So if there's any questions, comments, or discussion, please do so now. Councilor Wolf? Oh, you were just reaching for your microphone.
I was, and I move to approve ordinance number 23-08.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Will the city recorder please read the number and title of the ordinance?
Ordinance number 23-08, an ordinance amending the Tigard Community Development Code to include certain minimum design standards for parking areas in compliance with the State of Oregon Transportation Planning Rule.
Thank you. Will the city recorder please conduct a roll call vote?
Councilor Singh,
Yes.
Councilor Wolf,
Yes.
Council President Hu,
Yes.
Mayor Lube.
Yes. The motion is adopted by unanimous vote of the council president. Present. Jeez. Moving on, we will have our annual joint meeting with the Tigard Transportation Advisory Committee. And I'd like to welcome up Senior Planner Roth and the TTAC Chair Ruth Harshfield and Vice Chair Michael Hendrickson. And anyone else who wants to join us. We're a friendly bunch. Come on up.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor Lube and City Councilors. My name is Dave Roth, Principal Transportation Planner, and I have our TTAC Chair and Vice Chair with me, Ruth Harshfield and Michael Hendrickson. And we are here tonight for the joint meeting with Tigard City Council. Before we get started with the presentation, I just wanted to share a note that Councilor Shaw sent to me earlier today, acknowledging that she's not able to attend tonight and she is the liaison to TTAC. So here's her note. Councilor Shaw, who is the council liaison to the Tigard Transportation Advisory Committee, is unable to attend tonight's joint meeting but sends her hellos. On her behalf, Councilor Shaw did want me to reiterate her gratitude and the council's to each volunteer serving on the TTAC. The TTAC's work on the most recent bike map update is truly exciting, and this is just one of their many accomplishments. TTAC members, your participation on behalf of Tigard is greatly appreciated. With that, I think I will also like to acknowledge that we have a couple of TTAC members in the audience with us here, Sean Martinez and Richard back here, and we also have quite a few joining us virtually tonight online. And with that, I think we can start with the presentation. Okay, so tonight we've got a brief presentation for you. We'll cover what is TTAC. Michael will provide a year in review for 2023, And then Ruth will give us a look forward to 2024, and then we'll have an opportunity for discussion and Q&A. Next slide. All right, so TTAC is one of Tigard's 12 boards and commissions. We've got 11 voting members and 2 non-voting members on the committee. We meet monthly at the Tigard Public Library the first Wednesday of each month, and the meetings are open to the public, and we accept public comment and input at the meetings. Next slide. And what does TTAC do? They advise staff and council on implementation of our Complete Streets policy. They help us wade through decisions around capital project development and transportation program development. They help us and support us in implementing our 2040 transportation system plan and the projects within it. And they also are a really critical part of public engagement and providing input on transportation safety issues or other concerns from the community. So with that, I'll turn it over to Michael, who's going to do the year in review.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yeah, next slide, please. So this year, the Tigard Transportation Committee has done a lot of things. We continue to support our Complete Streets policy, which provides complete streets for all users, pedestrians, bicyclists, and cars. One of the big things that was mentioned previously was the bike map update that we did. Members worked with staff and the GIS team to provide feedback on trails and safe paths for cyclists in Tigard. And this was a lot of work by members going out onto the roads and trails in order to provide this feedback, to provide a quality map for the citizens of Tigard. I think I have these out of order, but Move for May. Some of the members participated in the Walk and Roll to School. And then the Hall Boulevard corridor vision, which has been top of mind for the city of Tigard. Members listened to presentations, participated in a tour, and provided feedback on what Tigard wants Hall Boulevard to look like in the future. And in addition, several members attended and provided feedback at the open house. Next slide, please. In addition, members learned about and provided input on the plan to change the residential streets to 20 miles per hour. And we provided input on long-range projects. We provided feedback, for example, on the following: the Tiedemann, North Dakota and Greenberg Road study, the Red Rock Creek Trail Alignment Study, the Tigard Trail System Plan, and the Downtown Reimagined from a transportation perspective. We've provided input on capital projects and programs. We've provided feedback on to ODOT regarding the statewide transportation improvement program work that has been happening on 99W and 217. In addition, the Safe Routes to Schools project at Locust and the Templeton Tuality project. We've also provided our support for grants, specifically the All Roads Transportation, or ARTS, project for new pedestrian crossways at Bull Mountain Road and 132nd, and also Southwest Gardy Street and 114th. We submitted a letter of support for the House Bill 2571, which is the e-bike incentive bill. And we heard about the Safe Streets for All funding and to develop a Vision Zero Transportation Safety Action Plan. And we will continue to provide input on that plan going forward. Next slide. Members reviewed and provided feedback on the changes proposed by TriMet, the TriMet Forward Together. In addition, several members have been involved with shaping how downtown parking will look in the future by being part of the Downtown Parking Committee. One member attended with the Planning Commission, the River Terrace work that has been going on, and they provided feedback to staff about the transportation issues that they saw. Next. And then a couple of other additional items regarding the safe route to schools. This isn't on the presentation, but we continue our support for the Safe Routes to Schools program, and we think it's important to continue to focus on providing improved ways for children to safely get to school regardless of the mode of transportation. And we have enjoyed working with Hendrick, who unfortunately has moved on, and we enjoy seeing the growth of this program. And we look forward to meeting with the new Safe Routes to School coordinator whenever that happens. Let's see. And then also too, I guess in closing, as members of the Transportation Committee, we learned about how transportation projects are planned and funded here in Tigard. So, thank you.
All right, so looking forward to 2024. I don't know that we can do as much as we did in 23, but we're going to work on it anyway. As you know, the 2040 Transportation System Plan is really guiding Tigard and what we want to do around transportation, and the TTAC is very much in support of that. The key themes that are included, like completing our streets to serve everyone, breaking barriers on the Oregon 217 crossings, continuing to invest in our trail system, highlighting bottleneck issues and alignment opportunities, and partnering on regional mobility solutions. As he was indicating, or Michael indicated, we had a presentation on where the funding comes for transportation that Dave put together for us. And it's very obvious that a lot of the important improvements we need to do are not within Tigard's jurisdiction, or we have all of our other partners. And so projects that require regional coordination, we look forward to Tigard being a leader in those, carrying out those efforts. The Safe Streets and Roads for All program, as was mentioned, the federal grants, we're very supportive of that and want to help the city better understand the safety challenges in our community and to identify solutions for streets, roads, and highways safer for all road users. So it very much complements our transportation system plan. The electric mobility and curbside management strategy, we're interested in encouraging growth in electric mobility in Tigard, and this strategy will investigate and inform implementation actions, including local policy decisions that can be made within the next 5 years to encourage growth of electric mobility. We understand that the project will make specific recommendations to amend Tigard's adopted plans, development, and building codes, and we'll be kind of keeping an eye on that and watching and being supportive as we can. One of the opportunities that the committee members have is to participate in a summer project tour where basically we can either carpool or ride our bikes, and Dave puts together the ability for us to look at projects that have been completed, that we've worked on, ones that are in process that we're hearing about, and things that are under consideration. So we always look forward to that opportunity. Another area, issues of concern, the sidewalk gap, inventory update, and future funding. Committee is concerned for pedestrian safety and community connectivity. So we'll continue to be seeking opportunities for funding to address gaps and to include sidewalks in future funded projects when possible. In the past, we have hosted the Tigard on the Move speaker events, and we're looking at doing that again this year. So we'll be coming up with some topics and hosting those events. Climate and transportation, as you are well aware, the 2022 Tigard Climate Action Report stated that transportation, primarily cars and light trucks, is the single source of climate emissions in Tigard. TTAC recognizes this and will continue to focus on reducing the impacts of transportation on climate in our review of projects and programs. So we will have a busy year ahead. So, next slide. We're open for discussion and any questions. I don't know if members of the committee that are online, if they're wanting to speak, or what the process is.
Yeah, it's certainly open if other committee members would like to come up and share anything or talk about the committee, or anybody online. Yeah, come on up. Welcome.
I'd just like to say I've been on TTAC for 3 or 4 years now, and just how far it's come and how much more the sheer volume of work that the Transportation Department is doing right now is very impressive. And I just want to thank the city staff and the counselors for supporting the transportation projects. Thanks.
Come on up, Sean.
Hi, hello again. I wanted to say thank Dave for sure for organizing the field trips. I really appreciate those. I mean, when we went out and did on our bikes, we visited some sites. That was awesome. But the whole group is amazing. We have definitely a diverse viewpoints. It is not an echo chamber at all, and we have some healthy conversations, so that is great. And I really appreciate the group. Thank you.
Is there anyone online who would like to speak? Feel free to raise your hand or come online, show us your picture. Is there somebody with their hand up? Yeah, Jim? Jim Schiffer?
Hello, my name is Jim, and I joined TTAC a year ago, and I just wanted to say that I'm really grateful to be involved in this, and I think Tigard has made some substantial progress in supporting a more climate-friendly and equitable transportation system. Especially the improvements to Pano Creek that we've seen with the Falls Ferry Underpass, as well as the new trails and bike facilities are greatly appreciated, and I hope we can do more of that stuff moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Is there anybody else who would like to participate? Okay, seeing none. Are there questions by the council or comments? Yeah, Council President Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. I just comment to thank all the CTAC members for your service. First, it's very important for us residents to get informed, and I believe that you are all very well informed of what's going on in Tigard, and being so you can be a effective advocate for us all. And I do believe that, as Ruth mentioned, that Tigard is the leader in transportation, and CTAC member play a big role in that. And so thank you so much for your time and your service. And also want to thank Dave for being the staff liaison. I was leaving TTAC when Dave was coming on board, and the big reason I was leaving was because at that time I didn't feel like my time was valued, or my input, my opinion was heard. So, but just having last 2 meetings with Dave when I was on CTAC, I was like, wow, I wish I could stay a little bit longer, because now we have Dave, and he seems to generally be interested in what TTAC member were saying. So thank you, Dave, for being a staff liaison and your leadership and facilitating the discussion. So thank you, everyone.
Councilor Wolf?
Echoing Council President, who I just so impressed with the list and the outcomes that you all have accomplished. So thank you for your volunteer time. But I also want to make sure, Dave or Ruth, that you all invite us on your project tours or the speaker series, because I would love to join along and just hear what you're thinking about, and just appreciate those opportunities in 24. Sounds fantastic. So thank you for your time.
Councilor Singh?
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to express my gratitude to all the members on the committee, and it's such an important issue. It's an interconnected issue, to so many aspects of our lives. from climate to health and our economy. So just want to express my gratitude and just echo what the rest of the council is expressing. So thank you.
You do really big things, and we've asked you to do a lot of really big, important things that have such a huge direct impact on our city and the way our community gets around and connects to the city. And I want to thank you for your volunteering to make Tigard a better place, and I appreciate that there are robust conversations, because I think that's where the really good stuff comes from, where we're challenging each other's ideas, and ultimately what comes out is better. And so my question to you is, what do you need from us in order to be successful over the next year? How can we help you?
Well, having been on the committee for over 5 years, I feel like that the council has stepped up and supported the efforts that the Transportation Committee is doing. And I think we need to continue to do that and to speak out and to, encourage people to be safe and drive carefully and, do the things that we do. And I think the combination of the council members, the staff that you have, and the community members has made a big difference. I know 5 years ago when I thought Tigard, the best walking city, I thought, what? But now I believe it, and you notice it. A lot more people out and about, even in the rain. So.
Yeah, I think it's really important that we continue to center that in our discussions and our decisions, right? Is everything we're doing contributing to that strategic vision? So thank you for bringing that up. I think we are making changes.
Yes.
Did you have anything to add?
No, I guess I just wanted to reiterate, one of the things that I think is important for the community is, like Ruth said, is to be walkable. I know that Tigard has come a ways, but there's always room for improvement, specifically, on a lot of streets, honestly.
Yeah.
And so being able to allow people to walk safely and kids to walk safely to schools and whatnot, I think is one of the key things that should be focused on.
Thank you. And yes, to Dave, this council loves pictures and maps and tours, so please invite us along. We're happy to go. All right. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We appreciate it. We have no non-agenda items and no executive session scheduled, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay. It's been moved and second to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you so much. Good night, Tigard.